Hilton, and Hyundai. He has great expertise with strategic media and experiential partnerships with major networks and studios. Has been active with programming for the Olympics, FIFA, World Cup, Super Bowl, Grammys, and Academy Awards. And before his marketing work, Taj served in the offices of Congresswoman Barbara Lee and also as Director of Communications at the Port of Oakland. And we are thrilled to have him as part of our, not only as part of our executive committee, but here to moderate today's panel. So Taj, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. Always good to see you. You look good in that black shirt today. He's wearing my uniform, folks. Well, this is such an exciting time to moderate this panel today and really spotlight some of the best and brightest that the East Bay has to offer. Welcome, everyone. Good morning to you all. And I'd like to jump right in this discussion today and introduce our amazing panelists. So I'm going to start with Nora Cohen. Nora is the Global Business Development Director for Saildrone. Many of you may have heard of Saildrone. They're based in Alameda. Nora is Saildrone's Global Business Development Director, and she joined Saildrone back in 2017. She leads Saildrone's strategy around US and international government, industry, and university partnerships and business opportunities. Nora was previously an entrepreneur in residence at Social Capital, a venture capital firm, and prior to moving to California in January of 2016, she spent 8 years working on strategy and logistics for both President Obama and now President Biden, most recently as a senior advance lead for the president. That's an exciting role, Nora. She previously held roles on the 2012 and 2008 Obama campaigns, as well as in the White House. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nora. Next up, we have Celia Lewis. Sylvia is co-founder of Sigray, Inc. Celia Lewis is an amazing electrical engineer with a background from Stanford and has over a decade in advanced X-ray instrumentation, formerly at X-ray microscope company X-Radia, and now known as Sigray. She leads Sigray's operations, marketing, and applications development for Sigray's suite of X-ray tools and its intellectual property strategy and portfolio. Sylvia has offered over $24 million in small business innovation research grants awarded to the company. Again, she's a Stanford alum, go Cardinal, and we welcome you, Sylvia, and can't wait to engage you in the conversation today. And next up, we have Derick Lee. Derick is CEO of PilotCity, based in San Leandro. Their mission is to create an engine for innovation for small to medium-sized cities. His work has centered around creating cross-sector programs in the East Bay that propel our communities and cities into the future. Most notably known for their regional work-based learning program, PilotCity is also a 2018 East Bay Innovation Awardee by the East Bay Economic Development Alliance, US. He serves as a co-chair of the NIST Education Supercluster of the US Department of Commerce's Federal Smart City Initiative called the Global City Teams Challenge. He also serves on the Alameda County Office of Education's Alignment Bay Area Initiative. Please welcome Derick, ladies and gentlemen. And last but not certainly least, we have Mr. Kevin Thorne. Kevin is Vice President of Operations for Mizuho OSI. Kevin joined Mizuho as Vice President of Operations in 2015 with responsibility for manufacturing operations, materials management, logistics, and facilities. Kevin began his career in healthcare as Director of Materials at Agreements for Diagnostic, at ADAC, laboratories, where he negotiated national service agreements for diagnostic imaging equipment. He continued to lead teams in the medical device business as a Vice President of Customer Care at Carl Zeiss Meditech. In 7 years, he expanded his responsibilities from all processes after product delivery to global service, strategy development, and deployment to 25 affiliate countries as a Vice President of Global Customer Support Functions for the company. A submarine officer for seven years, Kevin has your Bachelor's of Science in Engineering Ships Propulsion from the United States Naval Academy. Wow, what an illustrious panel. Welcome, everyone. How are you all today? Let's start with Nora. How are you today?
Doing well. It's great to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, all of you have tremendous backgrounds. Nora, I'm going to start with you with our first question for today. You've all been invited to participate in this event today because of your work in our region in the promotion of innovation in so many different fields. Because of your work and all the things you've done in your career, tell us a little bit about your backstory and your work in the United States government and what led you to Saildrone and the opportunity on the work you're doing today.
Sure. Yeah, so I've been in the Bay Area for, I guess, almost 5 years now. But before that, I worked in politics. Obviously, I worked in the previous White House and for the man who's now our president. So it was quite an adventure. But I think that what really brought me to the East Bay is all the different types of innovation that are happening out in the Bay Area. And I was really interested in applying my work in government service to the private sector and to really looking at impact-driven innovation. And that's really how I landed at Saildrone, which is, we're located in Alameda and we provide ocean data for a fleet of uncrewed drones that use wind for propulsion and solar power to power the sensors, which means they can go out into the remote reaches of the ocean to collect ocean data that you can't get any other way to support applications like science and mapping and maritime domain awareness for things like illegal fishing. So.
That's amazing. And as we look forward to, this year moving through the pandemic, how has Saildrone adjusted as a company, given the circumstances that we're all facing? Or have you had to adjust much, given the fact that what you do is a very niche, industry, if you will? How have you all been impacted?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been a challenge. We obviously had to shut down our offices for a period of time. Because we do all of our manufacturing in Alameda. And that way we were able to keep operating because we're a part of the defense industrial base for national security. But I think the other thing that was exciting for Saildrone in this time is that the fact that we are in the autonomy space means that we were able to provide some services that were a struggle for the government during the pandemic. So for instance, ships have a hard time, we're not able to sail to do some of their traditional fishery surveys last year because of all the COVID related restrictions. So we were able to sail a fleet of our Saildrone vehicles all the way from Alameda to Alaska to survey the pollock fishery, which is like the US's largest fishery. So huge economic impact there. It's really important in order to keep the fishery sustainable to set catch limits for those fish. So being able to go up there and do that survey for them enabled them to have continuity and making sure that industry could stay strong. That said, obviously it's been a very challenging time operationally, and we've had to reduce some of our operations as well. So I think we're really looking forward to hopefully being able to get back to full operations soon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Nora, for your illustrious work and innovation, and we'll come back to you in a second. I'm going to move over to Derick at PilotCity. Derick, same question for you. Your company is also a very prominent East Bay innovator and awardee of East Bay EDA. How have you adjusted and your staff with the current times and challenges presented to us? And what have you done to ensure that you can stabilize your operation and your company during these times?
Yeah, thank you, Tosh. So what PilotCity does is we're building engines for innovation for communities and cities with the people who are from there. So what we do is we run programs that we partner with employers with, and then we scope out projects that students can work on to win internships. So we can call ourselves social infrastructure, essentially. And so with this social infrastructure, we're finding that a lot of dynamics happen within communities that are typically limiting, right? So when it comes to, say, winning internships and going into physical internships, that's not the case anymore. We're moving towards a remote work environment where kids don't have cars, people don't want to ride public transit sometimes, and having a digital internship program actually is the most valid option and frankly the most manageable option for employers and also easiest for the actual students as well. So we actually grew our program by about 3 times this last summer in 2020, and we're able to move towards students choosing their own employers instead of having teachers and employers matched up. So we're in the business of herding cats and dogs with teachers and students and parents and employers and managing all these people has actually been quite useful to do it online. And so we already moved towards, it actually allowed us to move towards where we wanted to go already, because people were ready to be in a digital, automated, asynchronous fashion. So that's how we were able to adjust towards the pandemic.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Let's move over to Sylvia. Sylvia, with your work at Sigray, how have you guys channeled new innovation and also sustained your current operations given the climate? And have you seen new advancements in terms of how you can operationalize your business at this time?
Yeah.
There you
So
are.
Sigray is a X-ray, just to give a introduction to Sigray. What we do is we build X-ray microscopes to replace a lot of the synchrotron beam lines around the world. So synchrotrons are particle accelerators. Typically what they do is they used to be built mostly just to smash electrons together. But what they found was these accelerating electrons produce intense beams of X-rays. And they started to use that for scientific research. So they built a lot of scientific instruments at these synchrotrons that researchers typically apply for time for. It usually takes about 6 months to apply, and then even longer to get notification if you actually get time at the synchrotron. So it's very difficult to access. What we build is laboratory versions of these synchrotron systems for people to use. And what we've seen is, and what we end up doing is we sell these X-ray microscopes to universities, research laboratories, industrial environments around the world. What we've seen is that there's quite a lot of applications for the systems. Actually, during the pandemic, a lot of the researchers were unable to travel. Typically, you have to travel internationally to some of the synchrotrons that you want to use. So we've actually had a mixed blessing with the pandemic. People are not able to access synchrotrons, so they've been buying our systems more. We've seen quite a lot of inquiries just in the past month of people just having budget for our systems, unbeknownst to us. They saw our systems online and applied for internal funding or government funding to buy our systems. The downside, though, is we are a manufacturing company, so we do need people on site, especially for continuing to innovate. So we have pretty much about 30 of our staff is just scientists and engineers out of the 50. So to have everyone on site has been kind of a fear. So we all wear masks in the office. We do temperature checks, and there's a lot of rules about cleaning, washing your hands, and social distancing. And we try to be really strict about that because we don't want internal transmission. In terms of the other aspect that's kind of a downside is we typically install systems around the world, and we need to travel to install it. We have not been able to install. So we've ended up doing a lot of remote installations, which has been a learning experience. It usually takes us now 3 weeks to install a system instead of about 1 week, just because you're not able to see the system. We have webcams that are working to try to help us align the system. And to be honest, even after the restrictions are lifted, we'll probably have to send people over there just to tweak the systems, because they're not going to work as well as they would with someone on site doing it.
That's very helpful. Thank you for giving us some background on your company, because all of you, again, I don't know if the Bay Area in general has as much, especially in the East Bay, we have as much familiarity with all of the technological advancements and innovative companies that are based in the region. And let me quickly segue over to Kevin. Kevin, if you could give us and our audience a quick overview of Mizuho and your role and how you also have adjusted during the pandemic, that would be really helpful. Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Thanks, Taj. So probably more about the company. Mizuho OSI is a specialty surgical table designer and producer. So we design them here in the Bay Area, and all of our manufacturing is done here in the Bay Area as well. Innovative processes for hip replacements, used to posterior approach would probably take about 6 months for the patient to fully heal with a lot of pain and recovery time. With our procedure, patients can sometimes walk out of the surgery room that evening, typically the next day. But it's a significantly better experience for the patient. And that's kind of been, our motto is, how do we improve surgical outcomes for people, undergoing surgery? And that's what the company is all about. And it's been very innovative in, the delivery of products to the field in the space of orthopedic surgery. The pandemic has kind of, put us in a situation where we have had to apply that innovation or innovative, skills in more of the process space, which is actually what, we won the award for last year in our manufacturing process innovations. But every aspect of what we do has been impacted and is different. From day one of the pandemic, where we sent everybody home, including manufacturing, we quickly brought people back in to build, but the factory layout was changed to allow for social distancing and some engineered separations between the work cells so that we could keep things contained to small groups of people in the event of an outbreak. 150 people had to be converted from in-office workers to home workers with all the IT infrastructure necessary to do that, getting laptops for people and things like that. Including, things like going paperless with invoicing that we didn't really have to, hadn't really done before that. So, every aspect of what, we do as a business, was changed. And then we had to think through what's going to happen with the hospitals that we serve. Are they going to be completely dedicated to, serving patients with COVID, or are they going to get back into elective procedures that they do, which is their main revenue stream? And we had to be flexible to adjust with that. One of the things that we did to position the company well was we didn't lay anybody off as a result of the COVID pandemic, even though we were operating at about 80% of our previous revenue streams. We made a decision to keep everybody whole. If there wasn't work to do, we sent them home so they weren't in the building. And it's paid off because the industry for us is rebounding. We're back to our pre-COVID revenue streams. And the only way we've been able to deliver on that to our customers is by retaining, the employees that we had that are trained and ready to go. So, it's been a very interesting ride. It's caused us to rethink almost everything that we do and to apply new and creative solutions to it. And right now, the things look reasonably good. There's hope with vaccines. There's hope with people getting back to normal. The industry seems to be rebounding. So there's rays of hope for us to smile about right now.
Well, that's excellent. That's excellent. And I'm going to throw another question at you, Kevin, since you were our last panelist to speak. What could the region do? When we think about the East Bay and we think about there's many people on this call who are elected officials, who are business owners, who are business decision makers, right? That can really help to kind of transform behaviors that we're seeing in the region. What types of resources would be helpful to you from local government, from the counties, et cetera, that would be advantageous in terms of helping your organization and the other panelists with recovery and with the necessary tools to help you and your colleagues be successful, going into the future? What can the region do to help you?
Yeah, Taj, I think that's a great question. And, in my answer, I don't want to underplay or diminish the complexity in which, our elected officials have to deal with right now in terms of vaccine distributions and, creating a distribution system that's, both equitable and effective. And so, the guidance has been put out there and it's been published and the guidance is good. I think what we run into challenges with in businesses is getting to a level of resource or support that is a notch up from what would typically be available to the individual. The Alameda County, has a website, and we have called and utilized resources there, and they will direct you to some of these websites that exist. But typically, the websites and the information that's posted is geared more towards an individual seeking information about what to do. As businesses, it's a little bit different, and what we're trying to do is figure out how do we vaccinate 400 people and get it done in a way that's timely and efficient and effective, And I think that's good both for the employees as well as for, the county and the local governments, because we can get large groups of people vaccinated very quickly to help get us to that herd immunity type of a situation. But the resources for businesses are a little bit challenging to find. And I do understand the information flow coming from the federal government and things like that is very fragmented, and if not, sometimes just not even there. So I appreciate the difficulty that our officials are facing. But if there was an area where we could focus on and try to improve, it would be in providing resources to businesses that can work with our employees to give them information about how to get vaccinated and perhaps how to do it in mass, at local sites to make it as effective and efficient for the businesses as possible. That would be one of my asks.
I appreciate that. And, this is a forum where we want you all to ask questions as well, those who are viewing this. So please utilize the chat, and later in the program, we will hopefully answer as many questions as possible, because we want to give these businesses and these panelists as much exposure and use this as an opportunity to really network as well. And I'm going to go back to Nora. Nora, I have a different set of questions for you. And the main question is, thinking about the East Bay as an innovation center, how can we do a better job of promoting businesses like Saildrone and making the public more aware of your existence in Alameda and supporting you in ways that maybe we don't know how to, right? And ensuring that you are successful and that we're able to galvanize as much public support for the work that you guys are leading, especially knowing that the Bay Area traditionally is known for Silicon Valley being the innovation hub of the region. How do we bring more attention and awareness to companies like yours?
Tash, I think that's a great question, because I think it's really, you kind of hit that nail on the head, that people think of Silicon Valley when they think of innovation, but in Alameda, we are located on the former US Naval Air Station. There are a ton of other really innovative businesses that have set up shop there. So yeah, I do think that there are ways in which, we in the East Bay could really figure out how to better highlight that, sort of the fact that we have our own innovation hubs. I mean, I think that it's a really unique area in that for a company like ours that has sailing vehicles, we have water access. It's very unique in the Bay Area that we have a big manufacturing space that's right on the water, so that we can launch right there. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to really highlight the partnerships that we have there, and also the work that we do with the city of Alameda. And so yeah, I'm not sure if I know of the how, but I certainly think that there's so much going on this side of the Bay that it would be great to continue to think through how to work together to elevate that work, and also the resurgence of manufacturing in this area.
Absolutely. Well, I have an idea I'm going to throw out to all of you guys. I didn't mention this in our pre-call, but once we have an opportunity to host fans at the Coliseum, I want to invite all of you and your staffs to come out and enjoy a ball game, because I think it's important for our region to celebrate you all, and also to embrace all of the wonderful opportunities that we have to network with each other, right? And create like more refined synergies as businesses. And that's what the EDA does a really good job of producing, is these forums for us all to kind of collaborate. Although we may not naturally collaborate in our day-to-day, there's an opportunity, I think, to olive branch and create more awareness to support each other in areas that we need support, collectively. And let me go back to you, Sylvia, thinking about the same thread of questions to Nora, what can we do to better support companies like yours in the region with more awareness, with more marketing support, with more exposure via forums like this and or other opportunities that, we may not have discovered yet? How can we support you?
I think that's a really good idea, the networking. I haven't been as involved, so it's a pleasure to meet all of the panelists. I think some of them already knew each other beforehand, so it's been eye-opening to see other manufacturers in the region. Finding other manufacturers would be also very helpful, particularly with the ability to kind of lobby for support. One thing to kind of revisit what you asked, Kevin, I kind of have an even more audacious request. which was initially California was saying that the next phase would be critical manufacturing. And then they changed it to age-based, and now they've changed it to disability. I would still like manufacturing to be at the top of the list. I think counties have some flexibility in what they allocate the vaccines for. We really need people on site. It's impossible to do anything off-site, and it's kind of a race against time. I'm worried that there's going to be internal transmission. Knock on wood, we haven't had that yet. We've had some people come down with COVID, but it's not internal transmission. And I really just want to make sure that we keep that. So having access to vaccinations earlier would be a real big help to us.
Certainly. I think a lot of us share that same sentiment as it relates to our business endeavors and ensuring that we can produce the best outcomes with our staff. And
yep.
I think a lot of what you all do are essential, right? These are essential innovations, and even going back to Derick, I think it's important for our young people as well to see that they have an opportunity to further advance with internships and transforming them into a digital opportunity.
Go
ahead, Sylvia.
One other thing that I forgot to mention is because we're so specialized, it's really important to hire some very technical people. So associates with technical degrees are very useful. If there's some way to advertise to the local community colleges that are offering specific degrees, or the local DeVry's technical schools, that would be a huge support for us, because it can be hard to find people with the right experience. And oftentimes for service engineers, which is kind of a fun job, you get to travel around the world installing our systems. We tend to try to pull from those types of schools, but it's been a little difficult to advertise.
Are you saying you're hiring right now?
We are.
That's fantastic news.
Always hiring.
So we should definitely, I know Jackie and Stephen and the East Bay EDA team, let's please notate that Sylvia is hiring. So let's find a way to promote, and this is exactly what this forum is for. Let's certainly make as much awareness and exposure as possible for not only you individually, your companies, but also the opportunities that may be available to potential employees and students that are in need and seeking experience and opportunities. So that's even a better segue, Sylvia. So thank you. So Derick, on that note, what can we do to ensure that more of our employers and more of our network of community and businesses are taking advantage of this time period and maybe utilizing the digital age to promote those internship opportunities that may have been on site to now the remote internship based opportunities in this particular scenario of COVID? What else can we do to provide more awareness and opportunities to our youth and others in that particular situation?
Sure. Yeah. That was definitely a good segue. So, and tying back what Kevin mentioned too, I think digital transformation is definitely a key to get us all to a point where people are hopping onto the bubble, I call it. I think very early on, I realized that the bubble over here is getting smaller and smaller, while this bubble over here is getting bigger and bigger. And what that is really the digital transformation gap, right? So people being able to be digitally resilient or resilient with their businesses in a digital format, right? Whatever that may be. Now, I know that manufacturing cannot be digital, right, in some shape or form, but be able to have a scenario where we can actually have our businesses, from restaurants over to schools to manufacturers to discover what can be digitally transformed, right? What's interesting is that we're finding that our employers in our program are scoping out projects for students that relate to customer experience online and marketing online and social media and so forth, right? So if we cannot simulate a experience of our products and services and offerings, right, to customers in a physical way, how does that get translated in a digital format? And luckily enough, we have millions of kids and students who are in areas in our area that understand some of these tools already. It's a great seed, great soil to invest our time, our money, and stipends and funding and investments in, so we can build a massive pool of young people who actually are skilled to actually run these particle accelerators and these Saildrones and these surgical tables, right? That are automated to some extent, right? And they're primed for it. So I would say digital transformation of our businesses and having our youngest citizens of our community and community members in general take on those roles.
Yes, that's fantastic. And let's use this as an opportunity right now. So all panelists, by show of hands, if there are going to be future internship or opportunities for fellowships, et cetera, within your organization, just raise your hand if you anticipate that. Okay, fantastic. You too, Derick. I hope it's you too. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're hiring the talent. You know, our entire team is alumni. The oldest person is me. So yep, absolutely.
Well, what I'd like for us to do, just to keep, I see the chat starting to blow up now. It's like a telethon. We're getting some hits now. If all of you can either place as panelists, can place your company's URL in the chat, or where people should go to learn more information about your organizations, please do so we can be as opportunistic as possible with sharing information and getting people educated about what you all do professionally. And this is a really great opportunity. And thank you guys for this today. So Kevin, I'm gonna go back to you on the round robin here. Do you have any final thoughts as it relates to, moving the needle forward on not just with COVID, but coming out of COVID? What do you see as the most advantageous opportunities for your organization, and where do you envision those opportunities to be?
Well, that's a big question. COVID hasn't changed the need for strategy and for thinking through the future. And strategy starts from a good product and a good market. But then it comes down to execution, and I think that's perhaps where the question is kind of focused is, why Alameda County, why the Bay Area, for the best places to execute, because it's not exactly the cheapest place in the world to do business. But we at OSI have had kind of a strategy of onshoring and insourcing. So we're bringing things back into the area because of the ability to execute. And we execute well because we have, strong talent pools, that we have, strong people with process minds. There's a lot of innovation. There's different ways of doing things. There's a whole host of companies that we can reach out to and benchmark with or partner with to get ideas and share information. So in terms of, what's next for us, it's more of that. It's, figuring out the things that we can bring into the Bay Area that we can get our hands around to control our destinies better, so that we can execute on the strategies that we have. And the Bay Area just really is a facilitator of that. It helps make it possible for us to do our jobs and to do them very effectively. We don't have the need for saving a couple of nickels on our products by outsourcing to China and then having to live with long supply chains and time zones and difficulties that stuff brings into it. We're looking at bringing, carbon fiber manufacturing into the Bay Area to support our product lines, instead of getting that from various aerospace companies that we have, throughout the West Coast and sometimes on the East Coast. So that's what it is for us. It's, trying to, be in, kind of in control of our destiny and doing that here in the Bay Area, with all of the things that made it the right choice to come here and establish manufacturing in the beginning. It's just expanding on that and doing more of it into the future.
Well, thank you for that, Kevin. And then on that note, we're really talking about keeping it local. How can we, as a larger audience, general body here, think about localizing manufacturing and making sure that our supply chains can also kind of support the local economy and not having to be outsourced, not just internationally, but even, like you said, out of state? How do we keep our supply chain network closer in, if we can, the regional sort of radius and really help these other businesses thrive?
So, and this is a kind of a shout out to the people in the Union City Council. Union City has been a great place for our business to be. They have been very supportive of our growth. They have worked with us as partners to, facilitate changing, updating, and developing the buildings that we're in. I mean, we're in, what's classified as warehousing buildings, but we've converted it into multi-use buildings with manufacturing and office space. Sometimes you run into some complications with zoning rules and things like that, but the city of Union City has been, fantastic in working with us as a partner to do the right thing for, both the land and for the people and for the community, but then also facilitate, us as a growing business in a way that, is economic for us as well. So more of that, I think, is, really important to keeping it local by partnering, government and businesses partnering together to do the right thing to, take care of the things that need to be taken care of, but then help businesses to grow in a way that makes sense. That's, more of that is great.
Well, thank you for that. And let me go back to Nora. Nora, similar question for you. How can we, really ensure that this local economy is being supported by companies like yours, and vice versa? How can the community and the region support you to make sure that Saildrone remains in the East Bay for the foreseeable long-term future, but also providing you with the resource and the resource network in order to continue to expand? What would you like to see in that particular regard?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I think, we love being in Alameda. We love having the water access that we have, which is really critical for our business. And so I think that, but I think it is important that the city continues to work with us on that access and ensuring that we're able to stay there. We also do pretty much all of our manufacturing in-house. So we have also, insured all of that. And we have worked in the past with the local community and community colleges to bring on, we try to hire locally as much as possible. Like we did a program called the Daughters of Rosie, in which we did a training program for women in manufacturing, some of whom have stayed on our team. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, but I think that, another big topic for all of our businesses is continuing to emphasize STEM and STEAM in the schools and in programs. Derick and I have talked about some of this before, and I think hopefully post-COVID we'll continue to build our programs to enable people to come to Saildrone, to, students to understand the kinds of cool things you can do in science and in technology. But I think it's really important to continue to educate the future workforce to ensure that we'll have a pipeline of local, people to hire as the business continues to grow.
Absolutely. And what I would like to see from all of you, and hopefully we can do this with East Bay EDA, is maybe recording some testimonials and doing some of that PSA driven content so that there's more awareness. And it is National Women's Month this month, so we want to celebrate all of our female innovators throughout the world, specifically you, Nora and Sylvia. Thank you guys for participating today. And this is a really important opportunity for us to galvanize, I think, more awareness and also to bring more enlightenment to the community, because Alameda, Oakland, the East Bay in general, we do serve parts of a disadvantaged community, right? And making more inroads into opportunities with the local community colleges. I see there's many comments in the chat around that. Would be fantastic to continue to explore. So let's go back to Sylvia. And Sylvia, I'm going to give you a moment before we jump into questions and answers with the channel of chats here. What are your thoughts as it relates to how we can continue to create these opportunities with Sigray in the local economy, as well as your expanded international and global network? How do you think we can best support you, as well as you seeing your company as a resource to the local economy as well?
Resource to the local economy, mostly offering jobs to a lot of the scientists at the beamlines. Usually, if you're a beamline scientist, you stay as a beamline scientist. There's no opportunity to spread your wings and go into industry. So we do have a few scientists lift out of the beamlines for that purpose. In terms of being supported, I think just better networking. And I think that's a little bit on our part. We haven't really reached out, but having a network of other manufacturers, especially ones that are similar to us, would be very helpful. A lot of things that we had to kind of cut our teeth on, we probably could have sped up quite a lot. For example, patent lawyers, we went through a few of them before we really ended up with a solid patent legal team. I'm just blanking on other examples, but machine shops are another example where you really have to, if you're going to commit to a machine shop and they give terrible quality and you've already paid 50% down and it's really hard to recover that 50% down, it's not good, especially when we're making purchase orders of $20,000 at least. So having a network where you can really discuss these kinds of things and get referrals would be really helpful.
Absolutely. Well, East Bay EDA, let's continue to take these notes and support these organizations. I feel like there's an opportunity for us to take this conversation beyond today and really create some of the next steps, if you will, in this conversation and really take it, as an actionable opportunity. And Derick, to close the loop with you, what can we do with this body to continue to advance this conversation with PilotCity and looking at your organization as a model on, really retaining talent in the region and developing the next generation of future leaders and innovators? What can we do to best support you?
Yeah, thank you. So PilotCity started because I came back home from college and discovered that my hometown here in San Leandro was transforming itself into a city of innovation. A boring little city, San Leandro, want to do something big, right? And hometown kid wants to do something big with it. And there's a lot of people in these communities that care a lot about their community because their mom and dad are here, their aunts and uncles are here, their cousins are down the street, their friends are down this one, and people are invested emotionally to the East Bay, frankly. I mean, the reason why I love the East Bay is because people are from here, for the most part. And, there's thousands and thousands and sometimes tens of thousands and 50, 100,000 people that we can mobilize to create the future of our communities. It does require some level of creativity to create models, right, that allow us to save employers' times, to build a future workforce. It does require some time and energy and resources or schools to develop programs to align to industry. It does require our city governments and our county governments to develop policy and to acknowledge these resources that our schools may or may not have, our employers may or may not have, to synchronize everyone together to develop these solutions and models. Our answer is invest in the young people that come in a massive sum and have them be the ones that eventually sweep and comb through all the details that we are facing right now and in the future. Because most likely those elementary school little kids are going to be designing our flying cars in the future, right? And we're going to have to prepare them now if we want those cars to be flown correctly. And so taking that metaphor, as cliche as it is, I guess, it's quite real, right? Some of these talent pools in high school, it's a turnaround of 4 or 5 years. They go into post-secondary, they come back and they're ready to go, right? So we invest time in them now, you'll get a return in 4 or 5 years, but you got to put a real stab at it, right, to make it happen. So that's what I would say to mobilize towards our futures together.
Well, that's fantastic, Derick. And I share your sentiment. I'm an East Bay, Oakland native myself, came back home after, a long lap around the country to come back and work for the A's to help them take their brand and their innovation to the next several levels up, with the new world-class facility that we're working to build. So I share your testimony in that way. So I want to segue to some questions and comments that have been in the chat, and wanted to save a little time for you all to respond while we have a moment. There's been, I'll just shout them out. Birch, you've made very remarkable comments here. Thank you for all of the insight as it relates to the Peralta Community College Network. And just for a quick question to the panelists, have any of you worked with the Peralta schools like Laney? I think, Nora, you mentioned you guys have worked with Alameda College, City College. Derick, you raised your hand. And are there any ongoing programs or opportunities that we could discuss now as it relates to community colleges? I know you had mentioned, Sylvia, about potentially looking for students at the DeVries and the community colleges of the region. Derick, if you don't mind, since I have you on screen, what have you done in the past that we could maybe use as an example here on sort of the best ways to partner with the community colleges in the region?
I would encourage every single person who has people who work with them, right? Basically an employer, right? That could be a city, that could be a county, that could be a government, that could be an industry and healthcare, it could be an industry and technology, software, whatever, whoever, nonprofits, anyone who has a team of people to invest and discover what you have as local resources in terms of schools. Because I'll tell you right now that schools and colleges and community colleges and universities even are very interested in your needs and can design specific and custom programs for you and you as an employer. Now, I do think that we need to be more creative with how we actually use employers' time, which is the key here. But any experience that students get when they're at an age 22 or younger, or 24 and older, or 20 or 25 and younger, is going to be a beneficial experience for them. So talk to Birch, right? Talk to the folks over at Laney College and Mark Martins of the world, right? Talk to people who have access to these instructors and professors and students, and collaborate with them to design specific programs like the one that Nora mentioned with the Rosie the Riveter kind of derivative. I heard about that through the grapevine, by the way, before Noah mentioned this panel. And stuff like that helps us rebrand what we can create in the world, right? Specifically manufacturing.
Absolutely. Would anybody?
If I can add to that, I don't know if it was only Union City or if it was broader than that, but a couple of years ago, they had done things called Manufacturing Day, and we would partner with a couple of local high schools, and then the manufacturers in the area would host a tour, and the people would come on site and see what was going on. And we made since we have a machine shop, and Sylvia, maybe we should talk about that in the future, but we'd make little tokens for them, so they had something to take away from that to commemorate the day. And it was rewarding for the employees to see the young kids coming through and show an interest in manufacturing here in California. More of that kind of stuff too, if there's ways that East Bay can help facilitate these kind of business and community collaborations. I mean, that's really powerful, because it creates awareness on both sides of the equation for us in terms of the schools and the students that are up and coming, as well as educating the students on potential career paths for them in the future that might be attractive and maybe underserved sometimes, in terms of awareness.
Absolutely. And ladies, Nora or Sylvia, any thoughts on this same topic?
Yeah, I mean, I would add that, we've been doing some work around curriculum development. I'm a little behind on it, but we're really trying to figure out, yes, some of our stuff I'd say has gotten a little bit delayed just because of all the pressures in the past year because of the COVID stuff. But, I think ultimately we do want to make sure that we are sharing with the local community colleges what types of skills we need, so that when we're going through times of expansion, we can really do that recruitment locally. But I think that, as I said before, I think the other critical thing is just, demonstrating the types of careers that you can have that can be with a community college degree, that can be for women as well as men. And I think that that's a really important thing for us is, we have a lot of women that work on our manufacturing floor, and trying to kind of make sure that you know, educating young people about the types of things that are available and making sure that they know that those resources are there, I think is really important.
Yeah, agreed. I actually, we haven't spent too much time on our side looking into building out programs or talking to community colleges. So that's something that I'll definitely have to think about exactly what to ask. But we do have very specific requirements. So it's pretty eye-opening to think about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tackling that, because I feel like, you know, it was in the chat and it's an opportunity for us to kind of hit the nail on the head and address it. So just to kind of round out the conversation, we have about 9 minutes left. You know, thinking about innovation and what you all do, and I don't want to sound redundant, but it is important to take away what we all can do and understand as mechanisms for future growth, and really supporting your organizations, and hearing from you, you know, what are the things you need for continued future success, right? We want to keep your companies in the Bay Area forever, specifically in the East Bay. We don't want you to ever relocate or, you know, have another corporate office somewhere. So what does it take for you to remain in the region, to be successful, and to continue to innovate within your space? So Sylvia, I'll throw that question right back to you as a final thought.
The easiest answer would be, and the most difficult thing to achieve would be, to bring the cost of living down. It would attract more people to here at the salaries that we can afford to give. Otherwise, I think just making sure that, I think the beauty of the East Bay is the amount of scientists and engineers around here. And the proximity actually to 2 synchrotrons in California really helps us out a lot. Most places don't have a synchrotron or just one. So yeah, I think we will definitely be, in the long term, staying in the East Bay. It's building a community would definitely help us support that, but also higher density housing or making housing more available would definitely help that out as well.
Absolutely. We're going to have to talk to Stephen about another panel on affordability in the Bay Area. Kevin, same question for you, Kevin. How can we, you know, really see the growth and continued success of your company in the region, and what does that look like for you?
Again, it's a big question, and to, you know, segue a little bit off of Sylvia in terms of you know, affordable living. I mean, anything that we can do on the legislative front that is, you know, business friendly is always helpful. But outside of that, just, you know, at the local level, and, you know, Union City, you know, again, has been very cooperative and very helpful. And I think more so than I hear from some of my colleagues that have businesses in some of the other towns. And obviously I don't want to call anybody out on the negative side, but, you know, Union City does take a step beyond from what I have seen compared to some of the other cities, in terms of just being helpful to us in navigating things that we need to do to grow the business, whether it's, you know, ratios of number of employees to parking spaces, which sounds really trivial, but frankly can be one of the most limiting things to growth in a certain area if you don't have enough parking space. And working together with business to help on those little kinds of things help us to stay here and to feel comfortable being here, because we have a partner versus an adversary. And I think that's, you know, one of the, probably in a catchphrase, that's the most important thing I think that the local area officials can do, is partner with business to help us to grow, to keep the businesses here. And of course, doing the right thing for the employees. And, you know, I know why a lot of rules exist, because some companies aren't very helpful or protective of their employees, and that needs to be ensured. But then again, also working with the businesses to create a healthy environment for us is what's needed to keep us here.
Absolutely. And thank you, Kevin. And, you know, our business at the A's is really no different, right? We employ thousands of people, and
Can you hear Tosh?
No, I can't.
We heard you. You went mute on us, Tosh.
Am I back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
We're
back.
back.
Okay. All right. Well, at least it's almost 10 o'clock.
Oh no, it's cut out again, Tosh.
Did you guys hear me?
Now
Yeah.
we can.
Okay. Nora, then Derick.
The economy of words now, huh? No, I would say, I don't think I have too much to add from what Kevin and Sylvia said. I think that, cost of living here can certainly be a challenge. I think that at the same time, part of what attracts us to this region is the wealth of skills and talent that has been drawn here by the other amazing things about the East Bay, being on the water, having beautiful weather. And, so I think that's sort of a good and bad thing in some ways. And I think that, continuing to have business friendly policies locally and regionally is very helpful for us. I mean, at Saildrone, we're trying to build basically the world's largest network of ocean sensors, right? We have a huge, audacious goal. And so we really need, the support of the community behind us as we try to build a bigger business. And then that in turn will benefit the region, right? As we're able to create more jobs.
Yes, I share that sentiment. I'd like to go on the flip side of that question actually, and say that it seems like right now what we really should be focusing our time on is social infrastructure and networks and communities and building these ecosystems around these businesses so that those businesses can hire those people, that these people can accelerate in terms of mobility, not just with a young person in a family, but the entire family, right? Because adults who are in their with children, for example, in their say 40s or 50s, also need reskilling, right? And so there's a huge opportunity to bring together the family unit, to advance the family unit, so that our neighborhoods, for example, can also accelerate. And then after the neighborhoods, then we can aggregate other neighborhoods to then have the entire city mobilize towards the future. And from there, then we can work together as a region, as a county, and then as a county, as a region, then as a state, and so forth, right? And so really what it comes down to is the people who are living here and what resources, opportunities, and access do they have, so they can actually aggregate as a mass to be useful for everybody here and in the audience. So that would be the answer that we see.
That's awesome. No, thank you for that. And I'm sorry for my technical difficulties here if I'm having trouble coming in. Well, I want to thank everyone for your participation today. And this was a fantastic conversation, and I hope it continues offline and you guys can continue to network together, and we as well as members of East Bay EDA. And I want to give it to Stephen for a final thought, our executive director.
Tosh, thanks so much. And let's give it up for our panelists, Kevin, Sylvia, Derick, and Nora. You all were fantastic and gave us lots of food for thought. We are kicking off our nominations this month for the East Bay Innovation Awards, our 2021 event, which, like so many things, will be on Zoom. But one day, hopefully soon, it will be maybe out at the Coliseum, right, when we get a chance to actually come back together in person. But until then, we just want to wish you all well. Thank you all for being here, and stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.